Thank you. With your permission, I would like to say that I prepared my words in Hebrew, and we have so much to say, so to say it in Hebrew, it's much easier. And you have the translation and the direct translation, simultaneous translation. So many mechubadim.
So many distinguished guests, Frank Lyer, Professor Rabinovich, ladies and gentlemen. One of my great mentors ever was Professor, the Israel Prize Laureate, Tzvi Yabetz, of blessed memory. I not always agreed with what he said, but what's more important is he didn't always agree with my thoughts and my faiths. And nevertheless, he liked me, and I admired and loved him. I also appreciated his deep perspective as a historian who lives the present but visions the future. In a groundbreaking speech, how topical is it that Yabetz held in the ceremony of Israel Prize ceremony about 25 years ago, he said the following, and I quote, I am addressing all those people who think themselves ready and worthy to lead this people to treat seriously, without any trite slogans, to 4 essential topics in view of the dramatic changes that have taken place recently in the world. First of all, our relationship with the great superpowers, our relationship with our Arab neighbors and especially the Palestinians, our relationships with Zionism and Jewish diaspora, and our relations to ourselves and our way of life. From the words of Thucydides, said Yabetz, we learned that in a period of social and political tensions, words lose their real significance and they become slogans. I don't have to explain what happens to a people who is misled by slogans, or to commanders who fight the wars of tomorrow according to the agendas of yesterday, and to the statesmen who are captive in concepts of the past, while they actually have to cope with the challenges of tomorrow. It's enough to have all sorts of surprises and investigation committees to follow. Re-evaluation should be done before anything else happens. So said my mentor, my teacher, Tzvi Yabetz, in the ceremony of the Israel Prize 25 years ago. Not yesterday, 25 years ago. Truth be told is that at this very minute I should end my talk. I will say thank you for having invited me this evening in this wonderful place. But the words of Yabetz are poignant and true and relevant, just as the day they were uttered. Tzvi Yabetz knew very well and selected his words carefully. Yabetz was actually one of the spiritual fathers of INSS. In a reaction to the Yom Kippur War in 1973, he started discussing with fellows in the university about possible reasons for the strategic surprise that almost devastated the State of Israel. Together with his colleagues, they assumed that the Israeli concept failed inter alia because nobody outside of the Israeli establishment did not actually tested or evaluated the evaluation that the government based itself on, and as well as the perceptions of planning of the security forces. Their conclusion was that had there been an external research center that would have looked into the basic assumptions of the security system, maybe they could have raised a few doubts, a few questions regarding the evaluation of the intelligence, that the probability of war was between low and very low. At the end of 76, when Professor Chaim Ben Shachar, who was then the president of the university, and Tzvi, who was then the dean of the Faculty of Humanities, they heard that the general in reserves, Aaron Yariv, is retiring from politics, and they approached him with a request to head a research center that later became the Jaffe Institute for Strategic Studies, and today it's the INSS. With your permission, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to go back to the words of Tzvi Yabetz, which I just quoted. The first danger that Yabetz cautions us from is that words are going to lose their real meaning and become just slogans. Yabetz, who knew very well the fate of democracies beginning from ancient Greeks, also understand the weakness of populism. Slogans have an important value if they manage to include some substance. However, when the slogan is the one-all and be-all, then we have a problem, big problem. Just as any other citizen, I walk around this country in these very days of pre-elections. I see the sights, I hear the voices, and I must tell you that I feel a dissonance. In the north, we are facing a new front of an opposition axis by Shiite fundamentalists, another front of Iran and Hezbollah within Syria. Stable countries and our borders are fearing the terror of ISIS and the various satellites of the Sunni fundamentalism, the Muslim Brothers, Ansar, Al-Qaeda, in the east. The Palestinians do not tire from using non-conventional weapons in the international arena like the ICC, and they have quite a few successes. In the south, Hamas is still entrenched in Gaza, and we are witnessing the turning of Sinai to the Wild West. This is on the security front. And on the economic front, the challenges are no less important. Really not. The Israeli economy is lagging behind, and it's actually living between two economies, the high-tech and the low-tech. And there's almost no connection between the two. The gaps in the state of Israel are among the highest in developed countries. Also, young people from middle class find it difficult to obtain economic stability. But as opposed to this aching reality, the political administration is creative, viral clips and slogans, and the Israeli public, so I feel, are tired. They're fed up with the attempts to drag him with satire and stardom. The Israeli public is looking for horizon, for hope. It wants to hear solution. It longs for leadership derived by content and values, one that is able to make decisions.
In the spirit of Professor Yabetz, I now ask those candidates competing over the leadership of this nation, and there are many of them, they are all good and worthy. I would like them to address the four essential topics. Even in these days they are undergoing as politicians before elections, how are they planning to cope, first and foremost, with the threatening trends in the Middle East? One, the possibility of Iran being, God forbid, a nuclear state. Israel's role in the campaign against Shiite or Sunni fundamentalism. 3, who are Israel's allies in the current arena? Are there any? 4, what is the future of the strategic alliance between Israel and the United States and Israel and Europe? In the closer circle, the questions are, How should Israel treat the steps taken by the Palestinian Authority? What is the way that Israel should go down when coping with Hamas in Gaza? Is there a realistic possibility of reaching some sort of agreement against the backdrop of the turbulent Middle East and the Palestinian demands, or alternatively, what can be done in the absence of such an arrangement? In the inner circle, we should be asking our leaders the following questions. How should Israel be grappling with integrating the ultra-Orthodox and Arab populations in society and in the economy? The ultra-Orthodox and the Arab population in the first-grade population are more than half of the population in Israel. Are we realizing, is it sinking in, that we're talking no longer about minorities, but about over 50% of first graders today? On the economic front, we should be asking ourselves how we can promise and ensure equal opportunity. How can we move or transit from a dual economy situation, the high-tech and the low-tech, to one strong, inclusive economy that can have within it the Israeli vision for hope? Can we consolidate a budget that will provide a response both to security threats and social needs? And does the fact that many people from the permanent military service have been laid off and the erosion of their wages, does it not harm us both on the security level and the social one? These questions need to keep on being asked. We should ask them, our leaders, while asking from them and demanding of them relentlessly to stand up before the nation and answer them solemnly. I believe that if we deem it fit to speak on relevant international stages of the dangers lurking and the hazardous threats, all the more so should we be talking directly, at length, and yes, in Hebrew, to our citizens at home. We have no other constituency, we have no other elections, and we have no other parliament, only the Knesset. Our citizens in our country should come first. Whatever we have to say, let us say at least at home as well. Perhaps I should have appeared tomorrow in order to provide answers to these questions, but under the current circumstances, because I also have to decide who will be in the next term in office, I decided only to present the questions rather than providing the answers, which obviously everyone should have their own. Therefore, my distinguished guests, it is the role of this institute to evoke and to be a wake-up call, to prevent us from getting in a lull of misconception, to help us not to fight past wars, but to be ready for future challenges. The fact that this institute is a professional research facility allows it and its researchers to make a different voice in the decision-making arena. And this is a voice I listen to intently while I read the products and the important studies that are issued by the INSS. I wish to thank you for the work you do, and I hope that together we can promote a comprehensive and profound dialogue vis-à-vis the challenges Israel faces today. We must discuss these matters, brainstorm, all the ones who are making decisions in this country. Otherwise, we will always know what we wanted, but we won't know what the others want, and we won't reach a situation whereby we can actually cope with the problems and issues at hand, and they're not simple. Thank you very much.